Alright guys, I've got another tutorial for you. In this one we're going to be making a professional avatar, as you can see right here. It's fairly simple as avatars go. Like, the background is fairly simple, but it is very professional, and that's what we're going for. Especially with avatars, you don't want to overdo them and put some stupid 3D text or anything like that. You want to keep it nice and professional. So we'll be starting out from a completely new composition, so just hit Control N or go up to File, New, Control N, and go ahead and set it to, I got a preset here of 400 pixels by 400 pixels. You can just manually dial that in because you probably don't have a preset of that. That's generally what I use for avatars. Sometimes if you have a very detailed avatar, that can be a bit high of that can generate a bit high of a file size, but that's gonna be good enough, and just call it like whatever you want. I'm gonna call it avatar tutorial. Whoops. And make sure RGB color, background content should be transparent, 8-bit. Nothing else matters. And hit OK. I'm going to go ahead and rename this layer right here background, and go ahead and hit Shift Backspace or go up to Edit, Fill, and make it color, and change the color to a 0 saturation gray. It doesn't matter, the hue value doesn't matter. Set the brightness to 15 and make sure blend mode normal, opacity 100%. Hit OK. There's your background. We're going to give it a few layer effects, so double click on that or go down to Effects, Blending Options, or choose one. Just going to double click or hit Control Shift O. Start with an inner shadow. We want this one to be at 70% opacity, and take the choke because it's going to be a very 2D-ish effect. So take the choke to 100% and size to about 5. Actually, we want the choke a little bit down because sometimes you can get a bit hard if it's at 100%, like a bit pixelated. Not that it really is going to matter in this case. Just keep it at 100, really doesn't matter. And 90. Okay, and we want an inner glow, and we're actually use this glow as a shadow. So set the blend mode to multiply. Set the color to black, lower the opacity to 20%, set the choke to 100% or 90, or really doesn't matter too much, and set the size to 10. That just gives a nice 2D border that you can see once you make the avatar a lot smaller, like there. I'm hitting Control minus to zoom out, and then just add a little pattern overlay. I've got this scan line ones, which you can quickly make. To make this, you just make a little 6x6 composition and use the pencil tool to draw a line. Very easy to create. Then just go up to Edit, Define Pattern. You can just quickly make that. And lower the scale to 50%, and the opacity should be at 100%. And click OK. There's your background. And now we're going to hit Control R to bring up the rulers, or go up to View, Show Rulers, and then hover your cursor over the rulers on the top. Well, actually, first hit Control T so that we can snap it to the middle points, or you can go to, again, View and then New Guide, and then you can put guides at 200 width and 200 height pixels. But I like to use this way. Just go over here, drag a guide, and drag a guide. You won't actually see them first, or I won't, because I have to go to View, Show, and Guides, or I'll just hit Control semicolon, and then escape out of free transform, hit Control R. That's going to help us for positioning our text. Okay, get the type tool out, or hit T, And I'm going to be using the font CFG Locust Resistance. You probably have that font because it's been in a lot of type packs around, a lot of graphic packs that people have released. And then just click around right here, and I'm going to set my font size to, what do I want it to be? 94 points. Yeah, that's it. Just trying to remember what I had last time. And then I'm going to type logo. And for now, just try to snap it there. I'll probably have to move that, but black should be fine. Actually, I'll make that white for color. Or I could just hit Alt Delete because my foreground is white. And just make sure the lighting value is set correctly. 40 is good. And hit Control Enter, or Enter on the keypad. And I'm just going to make sure that it's snapped and snapped to the middle as well. I hit Control T there to transform it. And that's about it. We're going to duplicate that layer. Duplicate the logo thing by Alt dragging it, or I could have hit Control J to duplicate it. And I'm going to I'm going to first edit this. So double click on the text icon, or you can hover your type out and do that thing. And first I'm going to change the font to the one I used in the previous tutorial, which is where is it? Bank Gothic Medium BT. I'll just drag it around so I can see what I'm making, and change the font size to 54, and type in whatever you want, but I'm going to type in your name. Whoops. Yeah, 54, and type in your name. And I'll hit Control A to select all the text. Go over to the character panel and change the lighting value to -80, or you can use the keyboard shortcut Control Alt and one of the arrow keys. Around there should be good. I'm going to verify. Nope. There we go. -80 is what I want. Verify all the other options and hit Control Enter, and then Control T to free transform that, and just snap it to both guides and hit Enter. And now we are ready to, well, first I'm going to quickly go to the logo layer, double click on the type icon, and click between the L and the O, and then hit Alt left arrow just to change the kerning to match the rest of the logo. Just hit that a couple times so it looks alright, and hit Control Enter. And now we can hide the guides by hitting Control semicolon, and get the marquee tool again by hitting M. And now we're going to start on the layer effects of the logo layer. So double click on the logo layer, start with a drop shadow, opacity 70%, and I'm hitting tab to go down. Distance 0, spacing 100, and size 4. Then get an inner shadow, should be at opacity 60%. Tab down, distance 0, choke 90, and size 2. And then an outer glow, change blend mode to multiply, opacity 20%. Tab down to spread 100%, and size should be at 6. And then an inner glow, blend mode to multiply, opacity down to 20%. Tab down to choke, take that to 80%, and then size at 4. And then we're going to get some bevel and emboss. This isn't really for the bevel and emboss effect, this is for darkening it slightly. This is just for some reason how it worked. Technique, chisel hard, depth 1000%. Size wants to be at 0 so that we don't really get much of a bevel and boss effect. Keep everything the same. Change the gloss contour to this one that we used in the previous tutorial. Default with Photoshop. Highlight mode, keep that at screen. Change the opacity to 61%. I've got these values written down. Shadow mode to linear burn. I'm tabbing over to it and using the arrow keys. And opacity to 69%. And then quickly get contour. Change the range to 100%. Leave everything else. Well, I anti-alias it actually, and anti-alias that too. Okay, color overlay. Make it black color, and change the opacity to 30% just to darken it a bit more. I believe so that should be good for now. And then you want to paint gradient overlay. I've got this one pre-made. It's this one right here. You just want the first dot point, all of them at 100% opacity, but the first dot point, gray, brightness 60%. Second one, which is about location, 25%, and brightness 90%. Then another 60 at 50% location. Then 30% brightness at 75% location, and then another 60 at the end. You can just quickly copy that down. Then I'm going to hit OK. And then I want to put the opacity at 40%, and the scale at 100 is fine. And that's all good for now. And now just make a pattern overlay. Use the scan line once again. 50%, and the opacity should be at 30%. And then we want a stroke. Color should be a bright gray of 90% brightness. And the size should be 2. Position outside is fine. That's all good. That should be good for now. Let me just check these actually. Outer glow. Don't think I'm seeing that outer glow. Oh yeah, forgot to change the color of these. Change that to black. And change that to black. That was why. Whoops. Okay, that looks pretty good for now. We want to hit OK. And now we want to just hit, because we're going to give this a little bit of a reflection, hit Control Shift N to make a new layer, or drop down to the new layer icon. And type that in reflection, or call it whatever you want, and hit Control Alt G or Alt click between them, or hit create clipping mask, right click, clipping mask, Control Alt G, so it only affects the logo layer. Then we're just going to select right around here. Well, actually I might as well do it the other way. Here. And I'm going to, what normally people would do, like what other graphic designers tell you, I don't want to actually say any names, but it'd say strats. He'd have you then from this step go over to the gradient tool by pressing G, and then draw your thing, which you can now see is right there, your reflection. But actually I do it a different way, and I do it the proper way, what you're supposed to do. I mean, you don't have to do it in this case, but what I like to do to keep it all non-destructive and editable, just make a mask out of that, and then on the layer draw your gradient, pressing G to get to the gradient tool. I got a foreground with transparent gradient, white, and then draw your gradient. You won't be able to see it right now, whoops. I think I messed something up, but we'll see. And now, go to the logo layer, turn on blend interior effects as a group, turn off blend clip layers as a group. That will enable you to see this so that the color overlay and the gradient overlay aren't covering up the reflection. And hit OK. And then change the reflection opacity to, whoops, I got the gradient tool still. hit M to get the marquee tool, and I'm going to press 2 to change the opacity to 20%. Actually, I want 15. Actually, 10% is good. Yeah. 15%. 10%. So just hit 1 for 10% or change the opacity slider. And then I'm actually going to give that a slight drop shadow. Go ahead and change the, take it down to 15% opacity, distance 0, spread 100, and size should be 1. Just to give it a little bit of a definition there. Hit OK. See, I really strongly encourage people to forget what a lot of people have told them. Like, when you see in tutorials people rasterizing text and permanently deleting pixels, like, you know, selecting something and then hitting delete to delete it, I really encourage people to completely forget that and what other people have told you and start using layer masks. So if I wanted to mask out the bottom of your name, then I just go down here. I wouldn't rasterize it and hit delete, because then you can't edit that anymore. You can't undo that once you've done another operation. Well, you could, but you can't undo that after you've saved it, or you can't edit the text. So instead, keep all your texts and shape layers unrasterized, and then just, if you want to delete something, mask it away so that you can always turn off the mask. Delete that layer mask. Okay. Now right click and hit copy layer style and logo and paste it to your name, and then we're just going to edit that. Take the drop shadow to 55%, the spacing to 100 and the size to 3. Inner shadow should be 60%, choke 90, size 1. Outer glow should be opacity 15%, spread 90 and size 4. Inner glow should be size 2, spread 90%. Keep the bevel emboss. Color overlay, take that down to, we'll take 30% is good. And gradient overlay, take that off. And pattern overlay, take that off. And then stroke, take that to 1%. And that's good for now. Hit OK. And now we are going to create the cracks. Or actually, first we're going to make a little extra layer of inner shadow on the logo. So control click on the logo, or actually no, just hit control shift N first, and you call it logo extra inner shadow, and then control click on the logo layer, and then mask the inner shadow layer, so that you can make this layer look like an inner shadow logo. And then just fill that with white by hitting control delete, or alt delete because it's my foreground color, and take the fill opacity to 0, which I could have done in the blending options right here. And now we're going to double click to get to the blending options, put on inner shadow, and we're just going to make that opacity 15% and choke 80% and keep size at 5. Now the logo layer is really starting to look great. Yeah. Actually, let's just go into that, and I think actually I want to take that to the outer glow to 6. That's what was bugging me. Okay, there we go. One more layer, that's all we have left, and that's the cracks. Now we're going to hit control shift N, call that cracks. And then I'm going to go back to this one I had in progress. And I have these vector masks right here of the logo cracks. These you can just create very simply by getting out the pen tool clicking around in areas until you have a nice crack, just like that. And just make that in a path by going to the path panel, doing that, and then saving that by double clicking on it, like double clicking on the work path, save path, and that's what you have it. Then once you have this, since it's in a different composition, I'm going to have to select it all, go to the black arrow tool, the path selection tool, marquee that whole thing, then drag it all up to the other one, and hold shift and drop it. That did not work for me. Actually, I'm just gonna hit Control Shift C, and in this one hit Control Shift V. Whoops. Hit Control V. Whoops. This is not working for me. Okay, just Control or Alt drag that up and hold Shift. It's coming in slightly skewed. Shoot. This layer is, keep that at that. Keep that path right there, and actually control click to make a vector mask. But there's something wrong. I'm hitting Control Shift Tab. I've got to slightly change your name and logo. I'm gonna hit Control T and then drag that in a bit. See if that works out. Needs to be a little bit wider. And I'm just hitting Control T to, let's just make that a bit. And let's get the type tool, Alt left arrow. That should be a better match. Okay. Okay, that should be good enough. Now the cracks should line up better. Yep, they do. Okay. Forgot that step before. And let's fill this one with Shift Backspace and fill it with the same color. Should still be that. And now I actually created a another. If you go to the channels here, well, you can't, but obviously if you do, whoops. Go to the marquee tool again. But anyways, if I go to the channels here, I've created a little layer mask. This is just a solid line that I created right under the logo layer, and then I just filled this out based on the curves here that some of these cracks go into. So just control click on that, or I am going to. Then I'm going to hit control, actually no, I'm just going to marquee and then go up here, shift add, and then I'm just going to hit the layer mask icon to mask that part away so that it better fits this part of it. Okay, and now I just gotta add some layer effects to this. Go to inner shadow, change the opacity to 80%, choke to 90, size 2, go to stroke, change the size to 1, change it to that same gray, brightness 90%, and use center. Oh yeah, and go to the blending options and hit layer mask hides effects. That way it works out good. Now it's really starting to look good. We just need to go to this vector mask and alt drag it onto logo to duplicate the vector mask here, and then go to your black arrow tool and select them all and hit this one right here, subtract from shape area. That just gives it the nice shadow and all that. And actually we need to change this layer mask right here, so just control click on this, on the logo again, and with this layer mask selected, hit, in my case, control delete to fill it with the white background layer, and then control shift I to fill the rest with the black, so alt delete. And there is our avatar. Very professional. And for the cracks, if you haven't already, you can just make those yourself. I won't be able to provide those for you. Just make those yourself. It's very simple. Just click around and just make sure it falls inside the logo layer. But anyways, there is the avatar. It's very professional and simple. I will be coming out with a more detailed one, as well as how to create logos and other stuff. Maybe eventually how to create a nice professional YouTube background. And I'll have more tutorials, and I'll have a pretty epic speed art. Really, really amazing speed art. Very shortly, within a week. Less than a week, actually, probably within 4 or 5 days. You have that to look forward to. And this is Fringe signing out. Peace.